School Preview Show presented by Gold Athletics. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and as always, I'm joined by my partners, Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Great,
Doing
great,
great.
great.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're already into week 2 here, and I feel like we say that every week. It's hard to believe, but it really is. We're already into week 2. Seems like we were talking about what could potentially happen this season, and we were previewing stuff about a month ago, and now we're full flight in it. We got another great week of games. Of course, Connecticut kicks off this weekend, so now all 6 states will be in action moving forward the rest of the season. Really good slate down there of games to kick off the season. In the Nutmeg State, of course, they have the Connecticut Football Alliance down there that schedules some really, really good matchups early in the season. So obviously we'll talk about a couple of those games. And we'll talk about what's going on here in Massachusetts as well as the rest of New England. Before we do that, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Gold Athletics. Coaches, are you looking for a fundraiser that can generate revenue for your program, that can involve your players in your community? Then visit goldathletics.com. Matt Ross and his team have a variety of fundraisers that they can set you up with that can help you raise money and help your program be sustainable. Again, visit goldathletics.com today for more information. All right, gentlemen, as I said, there's a really good slate of games this week. We're going to start here in Massachusetts, the home base of New England Football Journal. First matchup we're going to look at is Central Catholic at BC High. Central Catholic coming off a tough loss to Archbishop Stepnack, but they acquitted themselves really well. An impressive performance for this Central Catholic team. BC High, of course, dropping their season opener in surprising fashion. Mukala, you were there, to LaSalle Academy of Providence. Look, both teams are 0-1. Both teams need a win. You don't want to start the season 0-2, and now you're chasing games as you try to get into the playoff hunt. Mukala, I'm going to start with you here. How do you see this one playing out? I mean, I know it's early in the season, but you have to think both teams are desperate.
Yeah, definitely. So, Central Catholic, I mean, last year, how many times did we see them just lose these one possession games? It were last year, they had numerous one possession games that, they didn't finish. Start the season off the same 23-20, losing another one possession game. So, I don't know if they gotten over that hurdle yet of finishing games, putting drives together in the end of games to give themselves a chance to win these games, because they keep losing these close games. But on the BC High side, their offense was not that great last week against LaSalle. They did find some things when they put in Noah Federico in there. He did some good things on the ground. He had some big runs, had 2 touchdowns, but their passing game just was non-existent last week. Their defense, they had their defense picked off LaSalle 6 times. 2 of them got called back. They had 4 turnovers. Their defense forced 4 turnovers. Their defense is going to be strong, but their offense has to give them something. Their offense really struggled to move. They couldn't put together long drives. So there's just some stuff on the offensive side. I think they're going to see a lot of the running game for BC High, because when they did go to the running game at points in that game with Noah Federico, that did work. So we're going to see that. And Central Catholic, the same thing. Caden Chase, that running game of theirs. I want to see which line is going to step up. So I like Central Catholic in this game because there was a lot of worrisome things I saw with BC on the offensive side last week.
Yeah, and it's not going to get easier for either of these teams, right? So, like, the losers are going to be 0-2, and then, one of them jumps into Catholic Conference play, and then Central Catholic still has Hendricken and St. John's Prep and some other games coming up as well. So, brutal schedules for both teams. Of course, losers are going to be 0-2. I'm interested to see how this one shakes out. I think Central Catholic, even though they lost last week as well, I think they had the better showing last week. Stepanak's a really good program in New York. And Central Catholic, I think they have a little bit more talent, and also they have much more experience at this point. They have a lot of guys that have been playing 2-3 years at the varsity level. I like the Raiders in this one. I think it's going to be pretty low scoring, something like 21-14 in that area. But I think the Raiders are just the better team at this point right now in September.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, because going into the season, if there was one team in the Catholic Conference that we really didn't know a lot about, it would be this BC High team. They had some questions, obviously replacing a really talented class last year that allowed Paul Zakauskas to have a good first season at the helm of his alma mater. Obviously, it's going to take some of these younger guys some time to step up and gel. And when they do, this team will play better as the season goes on. But I agree with you guys. I think Central Catholic really showed who they could potentially be, and they're playing a tough schedule, but they showed who they could potentially be by playing Archbishop Stepanak that tough. I like them in this one as well. I agree. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be in that 21-14 range. Next up, we have one of the best rivalries in Massachusetts. Of course, this seems to be the Division IV championship game, or at least it has been in recent years. Arch rivals Scituate and Duxbury will meet up again. This is one of the best rivalries in the state. It certainly has become that in the last 10 years. Scituate coming off a close 33-29 win against Westerly last week. The Bulldogs proving that they could play with a really good Massachusetts program. Quarterback Landon Husero had a big day for them there, but the Sailors survived. Duxbury, despite all the new faces, they got challenged by Abington. They survived, winning a shootout as well. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Thoughts on this one? Of course, like we said, this has kind of become the Division IV Invitational at Gillette Stadium at the beginning of December every year the last few years. It's kind of almost a fait accompli here that these two are going to face each other in the D4 Super Bowl. We get an early look at that possible matchup once again to kick off this season here in week 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week when we were talking about Duxbury and that Abington game going into it, we didn't really know what to expect from Duxbury. I think everyone assumes they're just going to be good and they're going to reload, but this is by far Coach Landolfi's toughest test. There's not a lot coming back from these teams that won a state championship 2 years ago, made it again in 2024. So I think Landolfi did a terrific job getting his guys ready. They were down 21-7 in that game, so they showed some mental toughness. They're able to even the score, and then obviously we're able to hold on to triple overtime and just an absolutely wild game. The Dragons are always going to be good. But like you said, John, this is a big rivalry. They're on opposite sides of the Patriot League. So it's technically a non-conference game as well, but they hate each other. Scituate has a sign in their locker room that says beat Duxbury. These two teams really, there's a strong disdain for each other. Don't be surprised if they meet again. Maybe it's not quite at Gillette again, but somewhere along the way in the playoff run, these teams could certainly face off again. I think at this point, though, I do like Scituate. Johnny Donovan, terrific player at quarterback, and then Grayson Foley is one of the most dynamic weapons.
He had a big game last week.
Yeah, and he's really going to take off this year because last year you had his brother Lawson Foley in the mix. You had Willie Robinson in the mix, so that he was kind of like third in that pecking order on offense, third or fourth on that pecking order. Now he's the clear-cut number one guy. He makes phases in all three. He makes plays in all three phases of the game. A definite all-state level talent. I think that's the difference. Donovan, Foley, those guys, that top-end talent is too high right now for Scituate. I like the Sailors in this one.
Yeah, like you said, both teams week 1. I mean, Scituate first play of the game, they take the opening kickoff to the house to start off the season. So we just know what type of focus they have. And then Duxbury, the mental focus they have, triple overtime in a shootout on the road against Abington, a really, really good Abington team. So that was a good start for your guys at Duxbury. I think I'm going to go in these ones, because it's a rivalry game and because it could go anyway, I usually always lean towards the home team just because they're home. So I think I'm going to lean towards Duxbury in this one. It's hard to pick against these guys, and I'm going to go with Duxbury again.
Tyler, you brought up an interesting point, I should say, where these two teams could meet each other before you get to Gillette. You know, in Division IV, you've got 4 or 5 really good teams at the top of the division that are considered favorites going into the season. These are established programs that have routinely had success. But I think when you look at these two teams and what they have coming back, and they're only going to get better as the year goes on, depending on how the rest of their schedule plays out, to your point, they could meet again before Gillette, which would be something because, again, we're so accustomed to seeing these two teams playing for the Division IV Super Bowl, it seems like at least every other year in recent years. So should be a terrific matchup. Next up, we go back, we go to the Hockomock League for another rivalry game. King Philip visits North Attleboro. These two teams did not play each other last year. The last time they played 2 years ago. KP and North have had a long time rivalry going back 50 years. King Philip has been on the wrong end of a lot of those games, but in recent years under Brian Lee, the Warriors have turned the tables on the Red Rocketeers, if you will. But I will say this, if there's one team in this King Philip run of the old big three in the Hawk, Foxborough, North Attleboro, Mansfield, that has constantly given the Warriors problems, it's this North Attleboro team. Now, North Attleboro graduated a terrific senior class that led them to a Division III state title. A lot of those guys are gone, but some of those guys that were key parts of that team are back. Frankie Strachan, Nathan Rivera. This is still a very good football team. Impressive 42-7 win over Brockton last week. For KP, the beat goes on. Beat Walpole 21-0 last week. Talon King, Keegan Cantor Rosario, one of the best running games in the state. Big up front. Young defense played well in getting the shutout. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this one playing out?
Man, this is another tough one to pick too, especially the way both teams started off their first games of the season. I'm going to be focused more on their defense. I'll talk about their defense on week one. North Attleboro only allowing 7 points, but I think the game was already said and done by that point. So their defense had a strong showing against Brockton, and then King Philip pitching the shutout as well. We know about their offense, we know about the running game, but the defense really, really stepped up to set the tone for their early season. So this is another hard one to pick too. But I'm gonna go with King Philip. I like Talon King. I like that running game. I think they might just have a little bit more than North Attleboro this go around.
Yeah, I mean, this is just your classic rock fight here. Two teams that are super physical, two teams that want to run the ball right at you. I wish I was covering this one. It's going to be a really fun game to watch as a fan and as a reporter. I lean KP here. The defense already seems to be at midseason stride right now, shutting out Walpole last week. I think it's going to be very low scoring. No surprise there. I think something like 17-7, 14-7, something like that. These are two teams that, again, could meet again in the Division III playoffs and the Division III Super Bowl potentially. I think last week Brockton just really struggled with North Attleboro's physicality. King Philip's not going to struggle with that physicality. I like the Warriors here, but again, it will be close and low scoring.
Yeah, I think it will be a close game, and I think it will be low scoring, and I think it's the kind of game where you mentioned how both teams play their style. I think that's the key here is which team can impose their will early and establish that physical style. And I think that the team that does that, I think will position themselves to win this football game. It's a rivalry game. It's going to be close. It's going to be tight. But I think whichever team is able to lean on the other team and really take the game over in the fourth quarter, I think that's going to be the difference. All right, next up we have Milford at Leominster. Both teams enter this game 1-0. Both teams coming in with shutouts. Leominster shutting out St. John's of Shrewsbury. Milford shut out Westfield 29-0 in an impressive performance there for the Hawks. Look, when we talk about Leominster, we talk about Osiris Lopez, Ryan Ricker. Those two guys had a big game last week for Milford. The Olsen brothers are two of the best coaches in the area. They have a good staff, a good amount of talent back. They'll be a threat in the Hawk. They'll be a threat in D3. This should be a really good game. But when you look at this matchup on paper, and Tyler, I'm going to start with you. I think the big key here is how does Milford defend Lopez and Ricker? Because those are the guys you've got to be able to contain. If you can't keep those guys in check, you're in for a long evening.
Yeah, and I think it's really just about keeping them in check and don't let them get these back-breaking plays, 50-plus yard touchdowns, even 40-plus yard touchdowns. You can't let that big play happen. The Giants have to be more methodical. You really have to make them work for it, which I think Milford is perfectly capable of doing. We talk about a lot of these Division III teams and how loaded it is this year, but I think Milford's kind of flown under the radar here. That's still a really good team. You mentioned the Olsen twins coaching. It's a great coaching staff. It's a proud program. So I think Milford's still going to be in the mix. They had a strong showing last week. Westfield's one of the top programs in Western Mass, and they were able to blow them out, shut them out. So that was an impressive win. Again, I think a win that sort of flew under the radar from a statewide perspective. Leominster, we all talk about Osiris Lopez, of course, and Ryan Ricker. Those guys are dynamic and they're fun. But Leominster also beat up St. John's Shrewsbury in the trenches. So this line showed that they were capable of playing against another D1 team and beating them and winning in the trenches as well. Osiris is going to get his. He's going to make plays. It's just you have to limit it. You have to try to hold this team under 30, kind of control the ball when you're on offense and limit the big plays on defense. I think Milford will be able to do that for the most part, but in the end, Lopez is going to pull this one out. It's going to be a close one, 28-21, something like that. But I like
Carl, how do you see this one playing out?
Man, Doyle Field is a hard place to play in recent years. That crowd, that environment is really tough. St. John Shrewsbury found that out last week. And we're talking about Leominster. It starts with Osiris Lopez. And this is I know we talked about like who are going to be the favorites in Division One coming into this season, who we might see down the line at Gillette. Leominster right now, I think they have such a chip on their shoulder for this season, and it's a lot of these guys' last go around to try to get there. I think this team is on a mission. I think they already set the tone and let everybody know, what type of time they're on. So I'm gonna go with Osiris Lopez. I'm gonna go with Leominster. I just think too much firepower, too explosive, and if their defense continues to play like they did last week, this team is gonna be really tough to beat. So we know what they're gonna give you offensively. Now, their defense is playing well too, that continues. It's gonna be really hard to beat this team. So I just think they have more firepower than Milford, and they're going to come out with the win this one.
Yeah, and I think you both made a great point, especially you, Mukala, when we talk about under-the-radar contenders in Division One, right? I mean, we know who Zavarian is. We know who St. John's Prep is. We know who Springfield Central is. Then you're trying to think, all right, who else could we put in that conversation, a la Needham last year? And Leominster might be that team this year. That could be another one of those teams, a public school team, that could surprise people and make a deep run in Division One. It's not going to be easy. It never is with the Catholic schools. But if there's a public school that could potentially do it, this Leominster team is certainly a program to keep an eye on. All right, next up we have Mansfield, who hits the road literally. They go out to Michigan to take on Bedford High School in Michigan. Now, look, full disclosure, I don't know anything about Bedford High School in Michigan. So I don't know if they're good, they're bad. I don't know what they are. Mansfield's going out there to play them. Mansfield has routinely played teams out of state. Ideally, I wish they would play people around here because I think that they're still one of the preeminent programs in the state, and it would be awesome. They are playing Springfield Central next week, so that's awesome. But all of that being said, we don't know anything about Bedford. I'm picking Mansfield here. I'm going to go hometown flavor here. I think the Hornets go on the road and get it done. Amaral, you tell me, can they go on the road and win this thing? How good is this other program?
I wish I could tell you. I wish I was.
You haven't been reading Michigan Football Journal?
No, sorry.
Should we just all go home here and pick them and move on to the next game?
Well, yeah, I think so. But Mansfield, I think they showed a lot last week too. Like BR is a really good team, and they were able to win that game on the James Warren field goal. He's a weapon too to watch in the Division III playoffs. He's a good kicker for Mansfield. But I think Mike Redding over the years, you can kind of tell when he has high expectations because that's typically when they go out of state and play these teams, and they've had some pretty good success over the years. So I think the Mansfield does go on the road and pull this one out.
Hey man, they're on the road. I mean, traveling is that takes a toll in itself. But I don't know much about Bedford, so I'm just gonna go with the home team, especially after what we saw last week and how they opened their season. Really good game against a really good under the radar team in Bridgewater and Raynham. So I'm gonna go with Mansfield in this one.
I think the Hornets are one of the favorites in Division III. I've said that all off season. When you look at what they have back, Tommy Vallette at quarterback, that backfield. When you look at DiGirolamo outside, another one of those big Mansfield receivers who's talented and a big target and can make plays. When you look at what they have up front on defense with Omari Fernandez, this is a good football team. And yeah, they eked one out last week on a last-second kick, but when the dust settles, this team will be there. They're going to make a run in Division III. I think the Hornets win this one and take care of business. Our good buddy Willem joins the show. His first comment was that he was in a parking lot sobering up, so I'm glad you were able to do that. Connecticut guy, big Connecticut guy. Greenwich, Fairfield Prep, great game down in the Nutmeg State this weekend. Greenwich, of course, the defending champs in Class LL. They return a really good group. They'll be the favorite again in Class LL. He also mentions Wilton, Connecticut. There we go. A little shout out to Wilton. And he reminds us that he's a UConn and Patriots fan, which is nice to see. Usually you get that UConn Giants connection. It's nice to see that we have a UConn Patriots fan. So, Willem, great to hear from you as always, man. Thank you for checking in on our shows. We really do appreciate it. All right, next up, we've got another interstate matchup here in New England. Central, the Knights visit Milton. These two teams are playing again. Of course, they played last season as well. Mike Washington has another talented skill group at Central, a skill group that could potentially give Milton some problems from a matchup standpoint. Milton coming off a 46-12 win over Needham last week. Very impressive performance for the Wildcats. Another team that's going to be a player in Division III. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this one shaking out?
Man, I like Milton. I like how they looked last week. I like how their offense was running. They had everything going. Yeah, they're trying to get back. They're trying to position themselves to get back into Gillette.
Well, they made a pretty significant statement last week.
Yeah, that was a big statement that they made. For me going into the season, I didn't know how they would look week one, but they answered a lot of the questions I have for them. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna go with the home team, Milton. I'm gonna take the Wildcats.
Yeah, I got the Wildcats too, and I guess it's a theme of the show tonight. These Division III teams. Milton's another one, state champion from a couple of years ago, and in the Wildcats, I think you're going to make a run this year as well. That up-tempo offense is going to be tough to play against for anyone, even given the athletes that Central has. Steve Dembowski, I think this team, he's a great offensive coach, and I think he has the talent this year and the experience. A lot of these kids from last year are back. Ronan Salmon, multi-year starter now. He's one of the best receivers in the state. Kind of saw that game-breaking ability last week. I think Milton's another one of these teams that's gonna make some noise here in Division III in a loaded bracket. So I like the Wildcats.
I think they're flying under the radar. I really do, and I think they're going to be a tough out, especially at home or on a neutral site field. I really do. And the thing is, you're talking about one of the best offensive coaches in the state, and Steve Dembowski. He's going to be able to scheme up anybody they go up against. They're going to be a tough out. They are. I think that they're the one team I kind of feel we're not talking about enough in D3, and I think we probably should give them a little bit more love because I do think, again, like I said, this is a team that I think is the best team in the Bay State League outside of maybe Natick and Wellesley. Those are your top three. To me, that's the best team in the Bay State League along with those two teams. They're going to make some noise. All right, next up, speaking of Wellesley, they host Andover. Of course, Andover was idle last week. We'll be kicking off the Jay Fielding era as he replaces E.J. Perry at Andover. And Mukala, I'm going to start with you in this one as well. Andover, Jay Fielding. Of course, you've gotten to know Coach Fielding. You've had a chance to talk to him. Yeah. Just some thoughts on where this program is, and can they go on the road in his first game and beat a program in Wellesley who, while they lost their quarterback who transferred out, they have a really talented skill group and a veteran coach in Jesse Davis that has been around for a while.
Yeah, Coach Fielding, I said before, he really hit the ground running since he was named the head coach of Andover. He was doing so many things for those kids, and he was doing a lot just to get them acclimated to what he wants to do, like the system and everything of that nature. And forget all the other stuff that he had him do as the showcase and, they got his pack performance workouts. But Coach Fielding, he really has those guys focused. Just chatting with them the times I've seen them over the summer, all those players are really focused. Those seniors I really believe they have something to prove and are really to showcase their talents this year. So this Andover team, it's a tough task going on the road in week one against Wellesley, but they're gonna show some fight. I think one thing I gauged from them is there's no quitting them, no matter the situation of the game. So with that said, I'm going with Wellesley though. Wellesley, very, very talented group. They got a lot of skill guys, as you said, and they're at home too. Season opener. I think it's going to be a really close game, but I think it'll be a one possession game, and Wellesley might just squeak out a victory.
This is a really fun game. I think these are two teams that could, or I think probably view themselves as playoff teams. Andover in Division I, Wellesley in Division II. Wellesley, I think, is poised to make a run here in Division II that's pretty wide open after Catholic Memorial. Obviously, you mentioned they lost Lucas Proc to transfer. Terrific talent, but Bobby Shanahan kind of stepped in last week, showed off this dual threat ability in this offense. Tennyson Charney, terrific receiver, one of the better ones in the state. Brandy Hollingsworth, that linebacker. So there's a lot of talent on this Wellesley team, even with Proc transferring out. I like Wellesley here. I think it's gonna be a pretty competitive game, back and forth affair. I think the Raiders just have a little bit more talent. I'm going to lean Wellesley here by a score.
Yeah, it should be a really, really good game. And I'm curious to see how Coach Fielding's Warriors do this season. Like you said, Mukala, he's put a lot of time into it. He's done a great job really getting that program going, reinvigorating it. We saw that at the MVC showcase. And I think, we had him on the coaches chat this offseason. He's the right guy for the job. He's going to get Andover going. He's going to get them in that conversation in Division I as being a public school that can contend. You are watching the High School Preview Show presented by Gold Athletics. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partners, Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. Do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Gold Athletics. Coaches, if you are in the market for a fundraiser and you need to raise program money for your program, whether you be a fall coach, winter coach, or a spring coach, visit goldathletics.com today for a variety of fundraising options that can help you raise the money you need to run your program. These are fundraisers that are fun, they're community-friendly, and they allow your players to get out there and promote your program. Matt Ross and his team are ready to help. Visit goldathletics.com today and get in touch with them. They are truly the best in the business. All right, next matchup we have here is a local border matchup, Foxborough and Walpole. Of course, Walpole upsetting Foxborough last year. Foxborough coming off a 34-21 win over East Longmeadow. As I mentioned previously, Walpole coming off a 21-0 loss to King Philip. Played the Warriors tough, though. That game was tight. This should be a really good matchup. Foxborough will look to avenge last year's game. Tyler, how do you see this one shaking out?
So I'll be there. This is the first game I'm covering this year, so I'm excited for it. Two very good programs. Again, we've been talking about teams that could make some noise this year, teams that could make some runs. These are two teams. Foxborough, I think, is Division 5 favorite. Walpole's down in 4 this year. So we talked about Division 4 teams that could potentially meet up with Duxbury and Scituate in the playoffs. Walpole's one of those teams. And this is a Walpole team that we've seen over the last few years where they kind of feel things out, get off to a little bit of a rocky start in September, and they really hit their stride mid-October and go on some runs here in November. I think that's going to be similar this year. Obviously, Noah McKenzie's gone now, so they're more reliant on running back Dylan Needham. I think Walpole's going to be in the mix. I don't think they pick up their first one here, though. I like what Foxborough did last week. I think they obviously really well coached. And then the Dulesky and Foley pairing is just really tough to deal with that level of football in the state. So I like Foxborough here by a score.
I agree with you as well. I like Foxborough. They're going to carry that momentum they had from last week. They've already got their game experience. They're already in tune. They have a rhythm already. Walpole, this being their first game, you might see them struggle a little bit. I know they'll definitely put up some points, but I just think Foxborough is just going to be a little bit more ready than they are, having already played a game so far.
All right, next up we have another really good matchup here, an interesting matchup. Plymouth South at Bridgewater Raynham, of course, Ian Baines, Bridgewater Raynham team, the Trojans losing a heartbreaker last week to Mansfield. Plymouth South is one of those programs that's kind of flying under the radar here. This is a game that in many ways that could introduce them to the rest of the state of Massachusetts and help people get to know them. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Thoughts on this one and how you see it playing out? Bridgewater Raynham, I think a lot of people think that they're one of those teams in Division II to keep an eye on. Could make some noise come playoff time. This will be a pretty good test for them.
It will be a good test. And Plymouth South, again, this is another team that's in Division III. So, you're going to have, legitimately 16 good teams in that playoff field this year, which is impressive. Just loaded. Plymouth South, though, they had a strong summer. It's a program that hardly ever passes in the regular season, but I thought it was interesting that they had a strong summer with Tim DeRocher at quarterback And I think he's sort of one of these underrated quarterbacks in the state. Doesn't get much love, much publicity, but he orchestrated a big win last week against Silver Lake. So I think Plymouth South's going to be able to hold their own here. But year 2 of the Ian Bain era, I have really high hopes. I know they have high hopes as well. Jack Lambert at quarterback, Dylan Reed at receiver. That's one of the top connections around. I think the Trojans win this one. I think it's close for 3 quarters. Bridgewater Raynham kind of pulls away in the 4th quarter, but it should be a pretty entertaining battle.
I think we might have a old-fashioned shootout in this one. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this matchup. We talked about Bridgewater and Raynham last week, how they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be a tough team each week. So gave Mansfield everything they could last week, just came up short. I think they'll get their first win this Friday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. And you made a great point, Tyler, in that, when you think about Plymouth State, they're in Division III. They're another really good team that could be in the mix as the season goes on here. And it's interesting, too, with that division, you're going to have a lot of good teams that are probably going to have 5, 6, 7 wins that are going to be seated in the teens. And that's hard to believe, but that's how deep Division III is. It's kind of crazy to me, the imbalance with the divisions here in Massachusetts and the way that they're structured is nuts. But again, who are we to call it out? The reality is we can't do anything to fix it. Next up, we have Linfield at Shawsheen. Of course, Shawsheen coming off of winning the Division V Super Bowl last year, opening the season off last week with a win. Linfield, when we look at these two teams, you've got a contrast in styles here. Of course, Shawsheen hasn't lost since November of 2023. Mukala, I'm going to start with you here. Who do you like in this one and why?
Shawsheen coming off their state title game, their state championship. They probably have a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. They lost some guys, some key guys. You lose a play, but you lose guys on the defense and you lose your playmakers like that. But I think with these type of games, I just want to see how the new guys that are going to be thrown into varsity fire for some big time varsity snaps, how they handle it. Or Shawsheen's going to have a few of those. So I want to see that. Linfield also, they lost a lot of guys too from last year's team. So I'm going to lean towards the home team in this one. Little Shawsheen.
Yeah, I think anytime you get a matchup with these contrasting styles, it always makes for a pretty fun matchup. Linfield lost 17 out of 22 starters from last year's team. I saw them in person last year. It was a very fun, entertaining offense. They almost took down Fairhaven in the playoffs last year. Shawsheen, it's just more of the same. Obviously, Sid Tilsley's out of the picture, but they're going to rely on that running game. They're going to play strong defense. And just because Sid Tilsley graduated doesn't really change much. Like, this team expects to be in the Division V mix again. They expect to get back to Gillette again. I think they're going to be right in the running. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all again this year. Bandit in the running game, Pratt in the passing game, James Tilsley at linebacker. He's a very good player as well. I like the Rams here. I think they win this one.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they're another program that's going to kind of sort of fly under the radar because they are in D5. No disrespect to the programs in D5, but that's the reality. The bigger programs typically get more eyes on them and more attention. But this is a very good team. And dare I say, it would not surprise me if Coach Costabile leads this team to another undefeated season. And to your point, Tyler, they have another deep playoff run come November and December. All right, next up, we're going to stay in the North Shore. We have Bishop Fenwick at Marblehead. Mukala, I'm going to come right back to you here. Marblehead, another program that's flying under the radar. Yeah. Your thoughts in this one? Bishop Fenwick, a program, of course, 2 years ago, they got robbed of an opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl. They've been pretty good. They've had a couple really good classes here. This should be a pretty intriguing matchup.
Yeah, this definitely should. Marblehead, I just watched their film the other day against Lynn English. Their defense was really strong in that game. That game was pretty close throughout. It was a 1-score, 2-score game throughout, and then Finn Gallup connected with Owen Coins, who took it 68 yards to make it a 3-score game and pretty much give them the cushion that they needed. But the Marblehead defense was swarming the other night, last Friday at Manning Field against Lynn English. So I expect a little bit more of the same. They got the playmakers. If you got a guy that can take a short pass and go 68 yards with it, I think that's good. And also last year, Marblehead suffered through some injuries. They also had the stuff with the teachers, and they couldn't play. They had so much going on last year. I think they're a lot focused. They don't have to worry about extracurricular stuff now. So I'm gonna take Marblehead in this one. They really, both sides of the ball really look good last week.
Yeah, I think Fenwick's first game of the year here. That duo, running back linebacker duo, they both play running back and linebacker. Dylan Patterelli and Tyler Conley, they're really going to shine this year. Bishop Fenwick's down in Division 6 this year. I think they're on the short list of teams that could sort of make a run here and make us at least a semifinal or playoff run in Division 6. I like the Crusaders to go on the road here and pull this one out. Something low scoring, 17-14, 20-17, something like that. But give me Fenwick.
All right, fellas, we are going to go no huddle here because we still have a bunch of games we need to preview. And, sometimes you get into the fourth quarter, you're playing from behind, you got to pick up the pace. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to start hand signaling stuff in and do all this stuff so we can go no huddle. All right, next up, Tyler, I'm going to start with you. We have Clinton at Northbridge, an intriguing Central Mass matchup between two programs that could play late into the season and contend for a state title.
Yeah, these are two terrific Division 7 programs. They both have a lot returning. Tough to go against La Chapelle. The La Chapelles can coach Joel at quarterback on their home field especially. I like the Rams here by a score.
I'm with you, Tyler. I like the Rams. Coach La Chapelle and those boys, I think they learned a little bit from last year. We're almost getting to Gillette and some of those things that they needed to do to get them over the hump. So I think they're going to start off strong. I think this is going to be a good game, though. I could see this one being a one-possession game, but Northbridge.
Yeah, Clinton's a good football team, and we've talked about the fact that they could potentially be a sleeper contender in Division 7. I don't think they're going to be sleeping on anybody. People know how good they are in Central Mass. I think this is going to be a really good game. Wouldn't it be something if we got a Northbridge-Uxbridge matchup at some point in the playoffs or even at Gillette, the La Chapelle Bowl? That would indeed be something else. But these are two of the better teams in Division 7 for sure. All right, next up we have Masco at Billerica. We go back to the North Shore for this one, Mukala. Your thoughts on this one? Of course, Billerica, a program that has had a lot of success lately. Sean Thero takes over there and you coach. It's a program that has tradition and history and high expectations against a Masco team that also has some tradition and some high expectations as well.
Yeah, and these type of games, I always lean towards the team that is a little bit more physical and that's that has the home field advantage. So I'm just gonna go with Billerica on this one. New coach, so I think they're gonna start his tenure off with a nice win. So I'm gonna go Billerica in this one.
Masco's another one of these teams in D3. I've been on them since last year. I think they were an 8 seed last year and lost in the first round. They have a ton of skill players back from last year, namely Jack Fabiano, who's a terrific all-state level running back. Give me the Chieftains here. They go on the road and pull it out.
And let's not forget Masco beat Billerica last year. So another program, when we talk about how deep D3 is, another program that I don't think is going to get enough attention. To your point, Tyler, I don't think people are going to talk about them enough, and I think they should. This is a good football team, a football team in the playoffs that could potentially go on the road and upset someone in the first round and make a run. All right, next up we have Melrose at Reading, a Middlesex matchup. We're going to stay in the North Shore. Tyler, I'm going to start with you here. Your thoughts on this one? This is a fun matchup. Reading bounced back last year in contention. Again, another one of these Division 3 teams that's going to be a contender. Thoughts on how this one plays out between two longtime coaches who have had a lot of success in Coach Morris and Coach Fiore?
Yeah, it seemed like for a while there was like an 8-year stretch where Melrose made it to Gillette like four or five times. It seemed like they were there just about every year.
They were one of the more dominant programs in the state.
They were, and I don't think they get back to that level or quite to that level this year, but I think Tim Morse is going to have them back in playoff contention again this year, maybe win a game or two when they get there. Jack Feeney, excellent signal caller for Melrose. Still not really sure what to make of this Reading program this year. I like Melrose to pull this one out. Should be close, though.
I'll go quick with this one. Give me the road team. I'll go with Melrose on the road to get the win.
Yeah, it should be a really, really good game. Reading intrigues me. I mean, they've got some good pieces back. It's a team that gained a lot of experience last year in their playoff appearance. It's this is a program that to me is hard to pick against. If I were picking this one, and I'm trying to stay away from picking him, I want you two to be the stars of the show. I'd go Reading here. I kind of agree. Well, actually, no, you both pick Melrose. What am I saying? I'm going Reading if I had to pick this one. All right, Bishop Fian at Chelmsford. Mukala, I'm going to start with you, Fian. Tough loss last week at home against Zavarian, the Division I favorite, taking on a Chelmsford program that is looking to hit its stride this year and make a little run in the playoffs. This should be a pretty good matchup. These two teams met up last year. This will be the second year they're playing. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I know Fahim wants to get that sour taste out their mouth playing it. I mean, not much you could do when the way Will Wood was playing last week, the way the entire Zavarian team was playing last week. Sometimes you just got to tip your head off to the better team. So I think Fahim will have a bounce back game. Bounce back as far as like offensive performance. I think they'll put up more than 7 points this week around. But I think I'm going with Chelmsford in this one. I think Chelmsford might have a little more firepower than Fahim.
Yeah, I'm still pretty high on Fee, and I like that they scheduled the way they did this year. They got some Catholic Conference games. They got some teams from the Hawk. Pretty difficult schedule. I think they'll have them battle-tested come D2 playoffs. I like the skill they have returning a little bit more than Chelmsford, led by Owen Mortis at quarterback. I think the Shamrocks win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with them as well. I think last week it was just that they went up against a superior team, a better team. I think that Fian is better than Chelmsford right now. You mentioned Owen Mortis. I think that they're able to go on the road and get it done. And look, they play a grinding style. I could see this being a close game. Chelmsford will be tough to beat at home, but I think when it comes down to it, I think Fian's style ultimately helps them pull this one out, even if it's a low-scoring game, an 18-14 kind of game. I think that their style favors them, in my opinion, and I would give them the edge. All right, next up we have Hudson at Shrewsbury. We go back to Central Mass, Tyler, in an interesting smaller division, higher division matchup here between two programs that have had perennial playoff success. Of course, Hudson winning the Division VI Super Bowl last year. How do you see this one playing out?
It should be a fun one. Hudson scheduling up a little bit here, kind of trying to get battle tested before the Division VI playoffs. They lost a ton from last year's team as well, as most state championship teams do. Jake Attaway was a record-setting quarterback. I still like what they have returning, though. It's a good coaching staff, and they still have some nice pieces, particularly on defense. I think they can cause some problems for Shrewsbury, even though they're in 4 or 5 divisions lower than Shrewsbury. I think they're gonna be able to pull this one out. I like the defense. I think they're gonna play a little bit different style than last year, and they're gonna be able to win this one 21-14, something like that.
I'll make this quick. I'm gonna go with Hudson. I think Hudson will take this one.
All right, we're going to stay in Central Mass. We have Uxbridge at Maynard. Maynard has been a consistent playoff team in the last decade. Of course, Uxbridge, back-to-back Division 7 champs. You got another La Chapelle there. It's been one of the best players in the state. This should be a pretty good matchup, but this Uxbridge team, Matt Blood has done a tremendous job there building this program. This Uxbridge team is really, really tough to beat, and we talked about this last week. You'd be hard-pressed not to think that they could three-peat here and win it in Division 7. Tyler, I'm going to start with you with this matchup.
They're the clear favorite in Division 7. As long as they have Matt Blood and Camden LaChapelle, I'm not betting against them. Spartan's got this one.
Yeah, La Chapelle, that's a electric player right there, big-time playmaker, and I think Maynard's going to have a hard time containing him. Uxbridge for the win.
All right, the NEPSAC football season kicks off this weekend, and we have perhaps one of the best matchups we've had in the NEPSAC in a long time, with Tabor Academy, the favorite to win the ISL Large, visiting Williston Northampton in what should be a terrific game. Our plan is to have someone there to cover the game. We're trying to line up someone to get out there. We think we have someone. We're doing our best to get someone out there. We want to cover this one. It's going to be a big-time matchup between two programs that have a lot of talent. And, when you talk about NEPSAC football, gentlemen, it really does come down to that. It is a talent league. And when you get these head-to-head talent matchups against programs that have a lot of FBS, FCS caliber players, it is fantastic to watch. Of course, Tabor Academy, led by quarterback Peter Bork, the Michigan commit. You've got a lot of talent. Caden Drinkwater, Trey Grant up front, Botan Varga. This is a really good football team that look, Williston Northampton is really good, but it would not shock me if Tabor ran the table. If they're going to do that, though, they got to get past a talented Williston team that has their fair share of talent, and they're at home. Man, this is a big-time matchup, and I love that you're getting these cross-state matchups now between the ISL, the Evergreen, the Founders League. It is fantastic. It's great for NEPSAC football. It's great for New England high school football. This should be one hell of a matchup. Tyler?
Yeah, I'll make it short and sweet. I've got Tabor in this one. I think Tabor's the best team in New England. Jeff Moore's just done a terrific job with this program. Like, I grew up in the town over from Tabor. Never in my life did I think they'd be a football factory, and here we are. That's a terrific program. I think they're the best team in New England, and they're going to start on a high note.
I mean, you got quarterback Peter Bork at the helm, leading Tabor Academy. So that's a good way to to help your offense out with a stud quarterback like that. Williston, Northampton, as y'all said, they do have a lot of talent. This is probably going to be a really, really good game. But I think Tabor. I'm gonna go with Tabor in this one.
All right, next up we have Suffield Academy coming up from Connecticut to take on Dexter Southfield. Our Kevin Stone is going to be there for that one. Here's the thing. When you look at this matchup, that Suffield Academy team is really talented, man. They really are talented. They've got they've got a couple of FBS kids. They've got a couple of FCS kids. And we know Dexter with Hannafin and the crew that they have over there. Casey Day does as good a job as any coach in the NEPSAC in terms of recruiting and building a football roster that can compete. This is a really, really intriguing matchup. I'm going to go Dexter here, but I'm telling you, man, this Suffield team is really good. I think they're going to surprise people this year. This is going to be a better game than people think.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a good game.
I threw you guys a curveball there.
Yeah, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know who was leading with that one, but I think I lean Dexter here. Yeah, I think Suffield. I think they will make some noise. I think they'll be slightly improved from last year, but I think Dexter's a better team here.
Give me the home team. I'll go Dexter Southfield. I think when in doubt, just go with the home team. I'll go with the home team.
Mukala loves his home teams.
Yeah,
I think Dexter wins this game. I mean, again, I think their ability to make big plays is going to be the difference.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like I said, I think this Suffield Academy team is going to be really good, and I think that they're going to surprise people as the season goes along. All right, next up we have Worcester Academy at Milton Academy. Milton Academy, of course, returning Quran McNeil at quarterback. You've got a really talented skill group returning as well. Dante Berger at running back, Cash Kelly a wide receiver. Got a pretty good front as well. This is going to be a really good Milton Academy team, and I don't think that they're getting as much attention as they should. I think a lot of the attention in the ISL large is falling on Tabor and the usual suspects, Tabor, BBNN, St. Seb's. But this Milton Academy team, I think, is pretty good. I think they kick off the season with a nice win over Worcester Academy, who's got some players. But I think ultimately, Milton Academy is slightly better there at home. I like the Mustangs in this one. Tyler?
Yeah, give me the Mustangs as well. Karan McNeil, he's going to put on a show. He's going to have a great year. In my opinion, Buffalo got a steal. I think he's one of the best players in New England.
Yeah, Tyler just said what I was about to say. You got the dynamic quarterback. He's going to be making plays with his arms and legs throughout this game. I'm going to go with Milton Academy.
All right, next up, we're going to just do a quick tour of New England here before we wrap it up. We're going to go to Connecticut. Couple intriguing matchups in Connecticut. Fairfield Prep at Greenwich. As I mentioned earlier, of course, Greenwich, the defending Class LL state champion. They appear to be the favorite in Class LL again. Anthony Morello has a really good team coming back. Fairfield Prep had a really nice season last year, faded down the stretch, senior-heavy team, but they do return Manning at quarterback. This is a good football team that's got some really good young talent coming up. I like Greenwich in this one. I think Greenwich, like I said, they're going to be the favorite again in Class LL. And when you look at Class LL, you had a coaching change at Staples, coaching change at West Haven. Fairfield Prep is going to have to play some young players. The path to getting back to the state title game and winning another state title is pretty open here for Greenwich. This would be a big statement win for the Cardinals if they could get it. Tyler?
Yeah, I think Greenwich wins this one too. I still trying to get fully up to speed in these other 5 New England states. This is 2 of the better programs in Connecticut, though. It's going to be tough to beat Greenwich on their home field. The pride, the tradition this program has, they return enough. I think Greenwich gets this one done.
Give me Greenwich for the win in this one.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals too. I think that they're so well positioned with what they have back. They have a talented team back despite graduating a really good senior class. And the way they play too, I think that they play really good defense. And I think that they're going to make enough big plays on offense with that defense. They're going to be tough to beat this year. They're playing a tough schedule, but I like them in this one. And I like them as a favorite in Class LL. Next up, we're going to go up. Before we go up to Maine, I should say there's another big matchup in Connecticut this weekend that our Craig Boland is going to be at. New Canaan at Newtown should be a fantastic matchup. Of course, New Canaan returning one of the best skilled players in New England in Andrew Esposito, the Villanova commit. Of course, Lou Marinelli, the legend, has been there forever, won 14 state titles. What can you say about the guy? I mean, he truly is one of the legendary coaches in the country, not just in New England and in Connecticut. I think this is going to be a really good game. New Canaan, the number 1 team in our preseason top 25 poll in Connecticut. I'm going to go with the Rams here. If I'm picking this one, I think they're going to be tough to beat with what they have back, especially at the skill positions. This is going to be, again, the favorite in Class L. I don't know if anybody else matches up with them. This might be their toughest game of the season. I'm going to go with New Canaan there. I'm going to give you guys a chance to pick that one as well, even though I added it to our schedule.
Yeah, I'll go New Canaan. And then I think there's just what's the matchup I was looking at? Hendricken and Killingly, right? Is another kind of
Hendricken and Killingly is another
game.
one as well. I we're going to be covering that one as well. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to throw that one out there as well. That's going to be another one of these interesting interstate matchups. So I think that's going to be a pretty fun game as well. But I got New Canaan in the game you just brought up.
Yeah, give me the Rams for the win in this one.
Newtown's a good program, though. Like I said, I think this will be one of their tougher games of the year, and this is a game. I don't want to call an upset here, but if there was an upset alert in Connecticut this week for Week 1, this would be the game. You mentioned Hendricken and Killingly. That's the best interstate matchup on the schedule this weekend. This is going to be a fantastic game, and you want to talk about a fist fight in a phone booth? That's exactly what it's going to be. Hendricken beats North Kingstown last week, 12-3, and that's the thing I've always appreciated about the Hawks and the way Keith Croft coaches this program. They can beat you in any kind of way. They can win a slugfest or they can win a shootout. This is going to be a slugfest against Chad Neal's Killingly team. Of course, Killingly returns the Allard brothers, the twin brothers, Hayden and Hunter, the dynamic duo, running back, tight end, DN. This is a fantastic, fantastic matchup. If I had to pick this one, I don't often pick against Hendricken, especially once we get into Rhode Island. They're tough to beat against. They've been the standard for such a long time. If there was ever a week, and I want to say this to Coach Croft's dad, buddy, forgive me, buddy, still think the world of you, man, but I'm going to go Killingly here. Killingly is one of the best teams in Connecticut. They return. They have one of the deepest rosters of returnees in the state. I think that they repeat this year. This is going to be a tough, tough game for Hendricken, going on the road to the Quiet Corner in northeastern Connecticut. Give me Killingly here. I think that this is going to be a good game, but I think it's the kind of game Killingly can win physically. Tyler?
Yeah, I've got Hendricken in this one. I mean, Hendricken has a ton returning from last year's team. Of course, they won another Rhode Island State Championship. The clear favorite to do that again this year. I'm going with Coach Croft and Hendricken.
I'm gonna go with Hendricken until somebody shows that they can stump them. I'm just not gonna pick against them, so I'm gonna go with Hendricken in this one.
You guys don't know the power of the Quiet Corner. That's what it is. Next up, we're going to go up to New Hampshire for a very good matchup here between the Bedford Bulldogs and Nashua South. Of course, Nashua South coming off a big win last week at Malden Catholic. Had a really good year last year. Bedford, I don't know. Do they get caught looking ahead? They have Thornton Academy next weekend. Nonetheless, this is going to be a really good test for a Bedford team that graduated a bevy of seniors that contributed to their dominant run the last couple of years. I think that this matchup, it's hard here, right? Because Bedford is a program that's now established in New Hampshire, and you want to pick them. But, man, this Nashua South team was really impressive last week. I like Nashua South in this one. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be the game of the week in New Hampshire. But I'm leaning Nashua South here. I think Bedford still has to work some things out. And dare I say, could they be looking ahead to the Trojans possibly? We'll see. How do you guys see this one shaking out? Tyler?
I'm really impressed with what Nashua South did last week. I think Malden Catholic's kind of a program on the rise in Massachusetts. I like what Nashua South's building in New Hampshire, but I just have a tough time betting against Bedford. In my opinion, they're the class of New Hampshire still, even though they didn't win it last year. So I've got the Bulldogs.
Good start of the season for Nashua South, getting the win against Malden Catholic, but I think I'm gonna go with Bedford in this one. This is another one of those situations until somebody beats them. If they beat them.
It's interesting because I thought Rhode Island made a statement last week with Westerly playing Situate tough and LaSalle beating BC High. I think this is New Hampshire's chance. The next couple of weeks is New Hampshire's opportunity to make a statement because Nashua South won last week. Bedford plays Thornton next week. Londonderry plays Duxbury here in the next couple of weeks. New Hampshire's going to have a chance to make a statement here in regards to where they're at in the New England football map. So I think this is their shot. I'm looking forward to it. Next up, we have Rhode Island. One of our games of the week in Rhode Island. There's a couple of really good matchups. You have Cranston West, North Kingstown, and you also have Cumberland at Barrington. Cumberland, of course, going through a coaching change, but still they've been one of the better programs in the Ocean State the last couple of years. They graduated a good senior class, but they do have a good group of players back. Going up against a Barrington team that has been a traditional power in the Ocean State, but struggled last year. Sandy Gorham's squad looking to get back on track. I like Cumberland in this one. I still think Cumberland can be a factor despite the late coaching change with Josh Lima leaving to go work for his good buddy Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Give me the Clippers in this one, in what should be a good game.
I've got Cumberland in this one. I think it will be a fun one, but I've got Cumberland.
I got Barrington. I think Barrington going to pull this one off.
All right. And as I mentioned, the other good matchup in Rhode Island this weekend is Cranston West and North Kingstown. North Kingstown coming off that tough loss last week to Hendrick, and I like North Kingstown in that one. North Kingstown is still going to be a factor in Division I in Rhode Island. They're a good football team. They return a good group of players. They'll be fine. That was a tough loss, but they proved that they could play with the preeminent power in the state. That should be a really good game. And finally, we have Vermont. The big matchup this weekend is Burton at Rutland. Rutland coming off a demolition of CVU last week. Of course, CVU beating Rutland in the Division I state title game up in Vermont last year. Impressive win for the Raiders to start the season. They host a Burton team that struggled last year, but has traditionally been one of the better programs in the state in recent years. Give me Rutland in this one. I think Rutland is the favorite in Division I. They flexed their muscle last week. I think they continue that this week against an improved Burton team, but a Burton team that we really don't know a lot about. We need to see them more.
Yeah, that was one of the statement wins across New England last week, the way Rutland handled CVU. I think they handled business again, and I agree that they're probably the Division I favorite in Vermont.
Go with Rutland. There's the favorite. Just going to go with the favorite in this one.
That's it. And they're a home team, Mukala. I know your affinity for home. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here. I know we went a little late, folks. We do apologize. Final thoughts here before we wrap this up.
Week one, what a way. Week one really set the tone for the series. There was so many great games in week one throughout the state. I mean, from the LaSalle BC High game and ending in an overtime interception by Thomas Loves to Jordan Toribio's 2-point conversion to give St. John Prep the win over Springfield Central, and in a game that lived up to the hype. There were so many great games for week one. I think it really setting the tone for this season.
Yeah, I think that it's still a good slate this week. So again, go out and enjoy some games. I don't think it's quite as top heavy with these top 25 matchups as we saw last week, or top 10 matchups that we saw last week, but there's still going to be some great games. So whether it's in your community or not, just go out there and enjoy some high school football. I'll be at Foxborough Walpole, Mukala. You'll be at what, Central BC High.
Yeah, I'll be at Central BC High.
So we'll be out there catching some good games.
Yeah, I'll be trying to beat North Attleboro.
Yeah.
There you go. And one other matchup, by the way, when we talk about Connecticut, of course, Connecticut kicking off this weekend, but one other matchup we didn't mention, Ansonia-Bloomfield, one of the bigger rivalries in the state of Connecticut for a long time. Two storied programs, of course. They played in the Class S state title game last year, with Ansonia winning that one and sending Tom Brockett off a winner. Of course, Coach Brockett retired this offseason. This is what I love about the Alliance in Connecticut. They're opening the season against each other. And again, this is one of the best rivalries in the state, and you get that bang right out of the gate in week one. I say this all the time, and I know that I'm tongue-bathing Connecticut and the CIAC, but they do it right. They do it right. This is why I've been a supporter of the Connecticut plan. This is why I've been a proponent of Connecticut football for a long time, because to me, when you look at the way they do it there, they do it right. They play a 10-game regular season. They play their playoffs after Thanksgiving. They get everything done by the second week of December. It goes off without a hitch. You get the best teams. You don't have a million divisions. You have 6 divisions. It's done right. And you end up the teams that ultimately are the best teams usually win it, and the cream rises. And it's great to see. I'm super excited for Connecticut high school football to be back, and we're expanding our coverage down in Connecticut once again this season. So we're excited about that. But some really good matchups to open the season in the Nutmeg State. It's awesome stuff. All right, gentlemen, great job. We'll be back at it again next week. That'll do it for this week's episode of the High School Preview Show. For Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo, I'm John Sarianides. Till next week, get out there and